anything to go by, then it tells you the strength or the influence of the finance minister in any administration. So we're privileged today to have Mr. Seth Terkper, a former finance minister. Thank you, Mr. Terkper, for your time, and good to have you in the studio. What have you been up to lately?
Well, thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers and to your listeners. Well, I do a variety of things. I do some consulting, not as active as one had hoped, but still something which I do. I also do some research and I do some teaching, faithful to my UCC background. So I do, the most active is with the University of Ghana Business School,
okay.
Where I do more adjunct than part-time lecturing, with partnering about 3 lecturers.
Okay, and you do a lot of travel, globe-trotting as well?
Well, I'm on a few committees, on the public financial management space. And so that, yes, occasionally I do travel, particularly along the sidelines of the IMF World Bank, and then to a limited the South African Development Bank spring and annual meetings. So, but I'm also preoccupied with issues at home. I follow them. As you may be aware, I do, occasionally, express my views, and I do also, write, mostly to not just merely stating, one's perspectives, but from a technical perspective, often for the benefit of my students and others. Yeah.
Right.
There's been the general public, yes.
There's been a lot of back and forth. The financial sector cleanup started in 2016 when the new administration took office, and we've seen a number of banks go down. We've seen savings and loans go down, as well as finance houses. And it's been a trading of, accusations, from the government and the past government. What's your own position on all that's happened so far?
Well, that is certainly a position which I would hope I don't, follow, because it distracts. My perspective is official reports, and you'll be surprised. I haven't been able to download some of the 2018 reports, but I've downloaded and read some of the 2017 Bank of Ghana reports. I have also read, I haven't read the latest Pricewaterhouse, Cooper survey, which has just come up. I've read other, informed, views. And I think it was President Obama who, cautioned us that what we need most, in Africa are institutions. And I can assure you that the same issues of forex losses, the same issues of subsidy, BDC, amounts owed to BDCs, the same issues of litany of them which docked the banking system, continues to dock the banking sector today. And this is a context in which I therefore say that yes, I do have an official perspective, because we did have policies which I'm ready to discuss, not hoping that it contributes to the resolution of the issues.
Was your administration careless in the handling of the banking sector crisis?
No Minister for Finance, no President, would be deliberately careless, in pursuing public policy. And this is why I talk about institutions. Politicians can go and come, but we do have public servants, like Mr. Achi, who I worked with on gifts, and the loan, for example, that is underwriting gifts, was something that we did. Would you say it was careless? No, we can pick and choose.
But you knew way beforehand, and when I say you, I don't mean you in particular, but your administration knew way beforehand, before 2016. In fact, the World Bank Commission report on the state of the banking industry had stated clearly the challenges the banking industry was faced with.
Can we do the first correction?
Let's go
commissioned the report.
You commissioned the report?
Yes, the asset quality review report. We
commissioned absolutely the asset quality
review. It's the government of Ghana that commissioned the report.
So you knew quite well what was happening in the banking industry.
And the direct result is ESLA, the Energy Sector Levies Act. If you read it carefully, Remember, let me just, go back, a bit and say that the crises were deep. Remember, the whole of sub-Saharan Africa was in distress. Many strong sub-Saharan African countries, Nigeria, South Africa, Angola, the powerhouses, were going into recession. We escaped recession, right? So the economy,
we had an IMF bailout.
Well, we can talk about the IMF bailouts. Those are some of the distractions. That is one of 17, IMF programs that come with bailouts. When you have an economy against the background of global financial crisis, which was lingering and is still lingering today, when you have an economy against BRICS, the meltdown by the BRIC countries led by China, India at the time, when you have what we coined in one word, doing so, 2.5 years lack of supply of gas from Nigeria, which led VRA to buy crude at very high, over $100 per barrel at the time. It peaked before it fell. And as you progress, when in 2013, 2014, you do a budget with $99, and it falls the price per barrel according to the Act, PRMA, and then it falls to $44 and then $40 per barrel, not even half of what you were expecting, right? Then the economy was in such a state that I think if you lose that context, right, you may oversimplify.
I do not want us to lose the context, Mr. Terkper, but
if I may just finish this thought, if I may. So I'm saying that we had growth falling from about 9% to 3.6%. As I said, we barely escaped recession. Other countries were in recession. You couldn't have a strong economy. And particularly the power crisis affected business, just as VRA. And by analogy, it affected the banks. And that is the genesis of the non-performing loans.
But, Mr. Terkper, the banking crisis, as we have come to know, was not only as a result of financial or economic issues. Clearly, it's been established that there were issues of shareholders recklessly appropriating funds.
You are quoting from the asset quality review. We can come to that as well. Yes.
I wanted to deal with that as well. You have talked about the economic side, about the global meltdown.
Well, no, you stopped me in my track.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, because that's the point.
Okay.
You had non-performing loans,
right,
which I was just laying the background. Okay. So yes, the causes, you have the non-performing loans, which were the most, Then like the U.S., which led to 1933. I mean, these things are not new. Were there regulations that prevented banks, from entering into non-bank business? I would hope that we pay attention to that, because that was one of the major, problems. Just like the U.S. banks that went into recession.
You're suggesting that there were no regulations barring shareholders?
I'm saying we must enhance the regulations. I'm being very careful with my words.
Okay.
Because I don't want to go into, the absolutes. This didn't exist. That no, you can't have a Bank of Ghana with that quality.
I need you.
Excuse me.
I need you,
yes,
as a former finance minister, to tell me what alternative you had in resolving this crisis, because a lot of the people within your party have criticized the management of the bank crisis by this present administration. It essentially means that you had an alternative.
I don't. Yes, of course, I'll come to that.
Okay.
But you wouldn't understand the alternatives if you didn't understand the problem. So I'm saying, one, there were non-performing loan issues, right? Two, which brought DKM and others down. You had governance issues which you were talking about. It's true that some liquidity may have been misplaced and all
may
that.
Have, also, or was displaced?
Was misplaced, yes.
Okay.
And some, because some of the cases are in court anyway, but some, were misplaced. If I have to, look at the official reports, then you have, three, you had I was talking about the use of depositors' funds for non-banking, business, which is being regulated in many countries. It led to the downfall. In fact, that was one of the premises for the global financial crisis, money going into real estate and other, and then lending to individuals. So yes, two solutions. Once we realize, after the audit, we, on our own volition, and by the way, it wasn't an IMF imposition, went to Parliament. In fact, the same month, November of 2015, that we were presenting the budget, we were also presenting the Energy Sector Levies Act, because the risk at the time had to do with the energy sector depression, which I was talking about. And we needed to keep VRA in particular, producing power. Right. Today, ESLA is bringing in 3 billion. So I think it will be those who say we didn't do anything, and 3 billion, remember, is about 1/4 the revenue from VAT, domestic VAT. It's about 1/3 the annual revenue from corporate income taxes from the last, reports, which I checked. Secondly, with 250 million Ghana cedis of the first ESLA flows, we did a first refinancing. We did a first refinancing of banking sector debt. And what we did was to inject 250 million as liquidity to the banks, and then took off 2.2 billion Ghana cedis of VRA debt based on the strength. And by the way, we did this with the Association of Bankers.
Now, Mr. Terkper, there were structural challenges, there were deficiencies, and you're still pumping money into a basket that has holes in it.
No. Let's not oversimplify the issue. I think you are, that's the narrative, right? When, and let me add a second. We did another term sheet, $600 million US, which was to resolve the second aspect of the energy crisis, which is those like Suno, Asogli, and the rest who had, provided power, and because of subsidy and others were not being paid. We were attacking the issue structurally because it is tripartite, right? It is simple to say you gave money to the banks. No, what we did was we brought together contractors who were owed by the banks, VRA, and the Ministry of Finance, then the bankers, right? So the money that went to the banks was in fulfillment. Because if you gave the money, there was a chance, and I'm not impugning anything, but it could happen if you gave the money, to, let's say, the creditors of the banks and whatever, the chances are that they may not go to the bank.
But they already have been given monies.
I'm talking about structure.
But they were already have been given monies that, according to the report, were dissipated.
No, but this is non-performing. No. Please, there isn't one solution.
And I'm talking about the liquidity support. That's what I'm talking about. Banks like Capital Bank, for instance, had taken liquidity support from the central bank.
Has the central bank stopped liquidity support today? It is a function.
Well, of course,
it
is a function, but the central bank has to also monitor.
I'm saying that, let's answer the question. Has the central bank, can anybody tell me that the central bank, which is a backstop, has stopped liquidity support to banks?
I do not think
because
so. I do not have information to suggest.
No, because that is one of the, I will be surprised, because that is one of the functions.
So, Mr. Terkper, if I get you right, a post-NDC government, post-2016, if you had won the elections, I want to believe you wouldn't have handled things the way this administration has.
Of course, the action started with the asset quality review report.
Would you have closed down banks?
Would we have closed down banks? It will be based on recommendations. I'm saying that the immediate problem facing the economy, of course, DKM, was closed down, right? It can be a microfinance. So if you want precedent, right? At the time, we're being edged.
It was practically insolvent, and I mean, it was really non-functioning before the government stepped in.
Isn't it the case with many other banks that were closed down today?
But they were functioning.
No, I'm saying that I'm asking you a question. Isn't it the case? Now, if a bank is functioning, then as a manager of the economy, you then have to look at the consequences of your action, because it is not. You are making a distinction between a bank that is not functioning and a bank that has problems, but is functioning. And I'm saying that is where the difference lies, because you have to weigh. And based on the global financial crisis, let me repeat, based on problems in other economies and the rest, you don't rush, because One bank was closed, Lehman Brothers, and another one in the US during the global financial crisis. The effects and the ramifications were so severe that no banks were made to fail in the US. The same thing happened in the UK, the Royal Bank, which was, halfway between liquidation, today is operating, right? And again, the EU, the Americas and everything decided that they have to assess the impacts of bringing down banks. And so if a bank is functioning, then one has to take its time to see whether the bank can be salvaged, which is exactly, by the way, some of the banks you say, were healthy or are healthy today, or as of 2017, they benefited from the 2.2 billion restructuring and the 250 million cash injection. Why do I say that?
You're talking about the GATT?
No, I'm talking about the measures we took. I told you that
which banks,
with 215, excuse me, I'm saying that with 215 million cash injection and the strongest love flows, we refinanced 2.2 billion of VRA's debt, energy sector debt.
Okay.
It was with 13 banks, including some of the strongest banks
How
that
many
we have
of them?
today. I said 13 banks.
You're
for that
saying
reason, excuse me, I'm saying, let's take our time to
take it easy, Mr. Terkper. Take it easy. Take it easy. Take it easy.
Yeah, so the interventions maybe would, so that I don't lose my train.
Okay.
Yes. And I'm saying that some of the banks which are said to be strong today, right,
benefited,
are strong because they had ESLA injections, not just in 2016. But if you take the ESLA report, and we don't have much time, but if you take the ESLA report, which I have here, it tells you that they continued to enjoy ESLA injections until the ESLA bond was, floated in 2018.
My only
so
question
they
to
may
you,
be
if you would allow me, my only question to you, Mr. Terkper,
yes.
Are all these 13 banks still functioning?
The majority are functioning.
How many?
Please, I don't have the list.
You don't
but
have
I
the
can
list.
assure
Okay.
you that, based on some are not functioning. Some are certainly,
That's just what I wanted to get.
Some are failed.
Okay.
Yes, some are among those, which have been liquidated.
So, Mr. Terkper, so an
yes.
NDC government that saw the financial situation of UT Bank and Capital Bank, banks that were practically insolvent, were illiquid, and had a negative capital adequacy ratio, would you have saved them?
I give you the example. I said that when a bank gets to the situation where it cannot be saved, right, then you take action. But you take action mindful of the consequences of your action. So, for example...
You've not answered the question, Mr. Terkper. Based on the situation I presented to you, UT Bank, Capital Bank, illiquid, insolvent, a negative capital adequacy ratio, would you have saved that bank? And tell me, then you can tell me about, the consequences.
I am saying that, the report that is being followed and its updates were commissioned. Various recommendations were made in that report, and we were following that report.
Did that include,
yes.
the shutting down of some banks?
Of course, yes. There were recommendations. I'm saying the same report is being used and it's updated.
But people within your own administration have criticized the central bank's move. They said they've been, they've been high-handed in the way they've handled the banks into the crisis.
No, excuse me, because people in government and unfortunately public servants, right, have also accused us of not doing anything. And I'm just telling you that I'm just giving you examples of what we did. And I'm saying that the strength of funds that is being used, in any case, which is a ESLA, which we had said will last 3 to 5 years, has been extended to 7 to 10 years. It is bringing in, and let me quote the official report, so you understand what we are. And by the way,
so ESLA was going to resolve all the challenges.
No, I didn't say that.
Well, but everything you've talked about has been ESLA.
No. I don't know you've been fair with me.
Okay.
I just told you, that we did restructuring.
Okay.
Yes, I just told you, that the governance issues were, on the table.
The governance issues,
yes.
for instance?
So they were on the...
Okay, you go ahead and then I'll come back to that.
So I am saying that 3.2 billion on average, going to increase to projected to increase to 4.4. A total of 30 billion, approximately, that's 29, billion by 2022, just around the corner, is what we are expecting to flow from ESLA. At least we are told today that the cost, and if, as you said, the work on ESLA, the work on the restructuring has come to a close, which it shouldn't be, because even the advanced countries are reeling with their 10-year restructuring. Anyway, I'm saying that if we are going to continue, then the bedrock is going to continue. And if we are at 15 billion, that tells you, of course, it's not everything here that is, some are for institutional strengthening, but the road levy, which is for clearing arrears, which we use part, again, to pay contractors and their banks. So it's not just, we use part of it to restructure toll debt, which today is not being done. So these are the uses. So the systemic energy problems were resolved. So I'm saying that if you look at the preeminent, if you need funds for the restructuring, right? If you need funds for the restructuring, then you would see the strength of the flows. By the way, we were of the belief that given this, the strength of these flows, right, we were not going to mainstream this revenue, and there will be no need to borrow again. At the moment, this revenue is being mainstreamed, and we are borrowing, for the banking sector restructuring, right? At the strength, this is official projections which I am quoting. So let me recap the notion that we didn't do anything. By the way, another action to tell you that it's not just, ESNA. We passed most of the banking laws that are being used today.
The deposit protection.
The deposit insurance, the deposit protection insurance, the Bank of Ghana Act itself is major revision that strengthened the independence of the settlements and all. Yes,
the
and
central
many,
government.
the forex, and we took about, I stand for correction, 3 to 4, banking, laws together with the PFM Act, the Revenue Acts, and whatever. About 12 laws for the financial and public sector.
So, Mr. Terkper, what you're saying is that you have no difficulty at all with the actions taken by the central bank. Safe to say that they have suggested that your government didn't do anything about the situation.
No, I am saying that if you go back again into our history, right, and this is what I'm saying. For example, we had a non-performing assets recovery trust, which is what you call a bad bank. And in fact, if you look at the restructuring that we did, right, which is to use ESLA to take off non-performing loans, right, ring-fence them, and then use ESLA to pay over time. That is 3 to 5 years. Means that you have created, you have ring-fenced the non-performing loans, you have put them in what you call the non-performing, and then the collection of those loans, right, non-performing loans, will continue, as they are continuing today by the liquidators and others, right? It will continue. But you will save jobs. But you would, you will save jobs.
Okay.
You will save investments. As you are.
At the moment, have we lost anything?
Pardon?
Have we lost anything at the moment?
Of course. Employees at home. Right? I'm not sure that, I don't think we are being sensitive to that. There are employees at home who have lost their jobs. Right? There are depositors who have not been paid. A lot. From the universal banks to the savings and loan, down to the microfinance companies, there are depositors who have not been paid. If you look at the 2019, budget, the depression in the financial sector is leading the financial sector and the services sector. Let me finish my thought.
No, please allow me. Please allow me. You were talking about.
You asked about the cost.
You're talking about what ESLA was going to do to help service the non-performing loans within the banking industry. Now,
I even didn't want us to draw too much on ESLA. So you pose a question.
Hold on, please hold on. Even before ESLA, some banks have received liquidity support. You have told me that some of the banks that are doing well today, which include the 13 banks, received support from ESLA.
And they continue to receive ESLA funds today. That's the point I'm making.
But you have also said that amongst the 13 banks, we've had some banks that have been closed down.
Of course, yes.
So the liquidity support in itself was not the only solution to resolving the crisis.
Yeah, but you don't have, why are you emphasizing on the banks that have collapsed? Why are you not emphasizing the benefit to the economy? Or excuse
because
me,
many more have collapsed.
No, please, please, please.
Okay.
No, you don't have the statistics. You and I don't have the statistics. But you also don't have the statistics.
Yes, I asked you out of the 13. You couldn't give me the number.
No, if the synopsis had addressed it, right, I would have brought it. And also, I'm being prudent also in mentioning names here.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But you did mention some. Okay. You didn't mention the ones that failed. You haven't mentioned the ones that are standing.
But can we agree that the financial support was not going to be the panacea to the crisis that we had in the banking industry?
It is not. I just listed for you that we even took action on laws. Right? And I just told you also that we conducted the review. So
the asset quality review.
Of course, yes.
Do you feel ashamed that the then running mate to the president, Dr. Bawumia, had consistently used the crisis within the banking industry as a campaign against your government?
Why should I be ashamed?
That today he feels vindicated.
Vindicated?
He does feel vindicated.
The nuisance tax is still in place. Remember? ESLA was described as a nuisance tax, right? And remember, we do not have the sort of mayhem that was predicted. I just told you that the majority of banks, right, looking at the ones that have been liquidated, the majority or the quality of the banks that came to the table, the majority of banks that benefited are still operating. And they're operating.
Oh, today you're saying majority. Out of the 13, you initially said you didn't have the figures. Now you say majority.
No, I don't have the figures.
But now you say majority of the 13 because you told me 13 benefited.
I said, please, if you could listen, I said based on some of the banks you were citing and the ones I know which have been consolidated, which have been collapsed, right? I am saying that the majority of those 13 banks, are operating, today.
Do you think there was any political motivation at all in the actions taken by the central bank?
I think you can address that to the governor.
Do you think so?
I think you can address that to the governor. If we can
Do you think some of the banks that were shut down did not deserve to be shut down?
Well, let me address the question right this way. If you have two groups of banks, right, and you are using GATT, which is going to be based on pensions for me and you, right? And guarantee, right, which two of us could pay, could be held, through taxes, right? If you use those mechanisms to protect banks which are still in the hands of certain shareholders, but you fail to use that mechanism, right, to protect other shareholders, then you expose yourself to some of the charges.
So you think the central bank was not fair in that action? It was not exactly fair in all its actions it took?
I don't think you should be pushing me.
No,
I'm not the governor.
No, because you have just said.
You asked me a question.
No, because you have just said.
No, excuse me, excuse me. You asked me.
Mr. Terkper, are you scared of saying it as it is?
No. The last time I was here, a headline was given that I took responsibility. I don't want to be personal about this.
Okay.
And I'm saying that I'm giving you the basis on which, because as I said, I do read. Okay. And I'm giving you the views of the public, which I think should be adequate. Okay. And I'm saying that if you use a mechanism, one mechanism, right, to save a group of banks whose shareholders are still holding those shares today through the mechanism of GATT, through the mechanism of consolidation and others, right? But you fail to use that mechanism, right, to address the problems of other banks, including those that were downgraded, right, and which could have been operating within the 15 million, right, and the 200. Remember, there's a big gap, and I would hope that we'll have time for solutions, because I think, as I said, I would have wished, because what we are talking about, it has been repeated.
Let's talk about the solution.
Yes. One of the solutions right? So I'm saying that you open yourself, if I may finish that thought.
Okay, do.
So that's when you open yourself to the charge of discrimination, right?
And
so
do you believe they've discriminated?
I'm stating the facts. What I believe is immaterial. I think we are pursuing public policy. Let's be mindful. Now what we are pursuing is public policy. And let us discuss public policy. Let us not personalize, because that is what is muddying the waters. Let us discuss public policy. And among the solutions, what I have said is one of the genuine solutions. I mentioned creating a bad bank, which we did, we have in our history, non-performing assets recovery trust, which I said also underpinned the offloading. I mentioned tiering, and what we mean by tiering is that within the category of banks, since the banks, let's take the universal banks first, right? The minimum capital requirement is 400. You would agree with me that there are banks today which may be operating maybe at 800 million, especially those that are foreign owned. Multinational. They may be operating at 800 million, or they may be operating 600 million, right? And so even within that category, they are not all the same, right? Now, if you move 400 million, the next group of banks are the savings and loan banks. Capital may be increased, we are told next year, but today you need only 15 to 20 million. You can see the gap between 15 million and 400 million. It was going to be 230 million.
Your point is what?
My point is, you could have given the opportunity for some of the banks, right, to operate between 15 million and 400 million, and not necessarily judge them by 400 million standard.
But as you may be aware, Mr. Terkper, the central bank gave different reasons for the closure of the banks.
We are looking for solutions. I'm citing solutions that are used elsewhere.
Okay.
Let's not make everything Ghanaian, because there are experiences elsewhere. Okay? And so I'm saying we are talking about solutions, right? Yes. So I'm enumerating the solutions. So I'm saying that given the gap that you have between 15, 20 million and 400 million, you could have banks operating at 100 million, you could have banks operating at 200 million. After all, their capital ratio determines the loan that they have to give, right? And then if you come down, looking at the gap between 2 million for microfinance, I'm not sure what rural banks, maybe 5 million, and 15 million for savings and loan, you could have savings and loans bank, operating around 6 million, 5 million, not necessarily at 15 million. So the impairment that we are talking about for some of the banks, when we talk about their impairment, does not mean that they have lost all their 15 million. And I was on a panel, where an official of the central bank indicated that there are shareholders today who do not want to be taxed and are therefore paying the depositors who they owe.
That is true.
Which means that, yes. Which means that, could we have saved them to operate somewhere?
It went way beyond that. It was way beyond that. There were other regulatory issues, issues of, interrelated party transactions and all that. So,
but those are the issues to be resolved. Of course, there are some which are so bad. Remember, let's make two distinctions, right? Let's make two distinctions. I'm saying, let me be extreme. If there is theft of depositors' funds, the shareholder, the employees,
we'll come back to the solutions. We'll come back to the solutions. But quickly, I just want you to address one. I just want you to address one question. Did you accept the notion? Do you accept the notion?
No, would you let me clarify this point?
Quickly, I'll allow you to do that.
Please.
Would you accept the notion, Mr. Terkper, that the banking sector was ruined under your administration?
No, please. Emphatic no. Because we passed the necessary laws, right? We brought in the relevant tax revenue, which was described as a nuisance tax, which is, being used today. So no, I wouldn't, and I said that we did the restructuring. We didn't lead to losses. We didn't lead to disinvestments. So I don't see why I should accept, you know, that. So the point I'm talking about...
Let's wrap up quickly on the solution.
Yes. So I'm saying that if... Okay, I was making a distinction between graft, which needs to be prosecuted, and the lack of clarity in regulations. For example, if we had a regulation that said, stick to core banking when you collect money from depositors, right? Don't use the money for a related business.
Did we need to have a regulation on that?
Of course, the U.S. had it.
How on earth do you lend to a related party at rates, at very concessionary rates, way below the market rate? Was that right?
I am saying, I think we need to be patient. Greed is not a Ghanaian phenomenon only. And I'm saying that the U.S. had occasion, right? The U.S. had occasion to pass a law to this effect. We can't bemoan, you know, the failings of human nature and not move ahead to bring in the law, as we did, to enhance the laws, to enhance the regulations, to prevent. Otherwise, we would live to see the same thing happening again.
Is that not what has been done?
I'm not aware of the law yet.
Mr. Terkper, thank you very much for your time. Seth Terkper is former finance minister on the one-on-one here with us on Business Focus. We're going to wrap it up shortly with Trader Slots.